I travel constantly for work and pleasure, so what do I consider my premium EDC travel kit that I bring along with me at all times? I'll share with you my experiences as well as my secrets with the help of Sterling Pacific, the sponsor of today's video. Frankly, I caught the travel bug early. My parents always took me on trips. My dad was from Brazil, we were in Germany, and so we traveled quite a bit. Living in Europe, I loved to visit craftsmen and different cities, and it was easy to travel all over. Then I met Teresa. I lived in Germany, she lived in the US, and we had a long distance relationship for 2.5 years, during which we flew a lot. Over the course of my lifetime, I traveled well over 1,000 hours. I used to fly primarily at Delta, so I even made it to a Delta Diamond Medallion. These days, I'm not so airline focused. I'll just travel with whatever offers me the best deal. So this video condenses all the things I've learned over the last 30 years into my premium travel kit. Depending on how long I go and where I go, certain things change. But these are pretty much the things I bring on every trip. First of all, I always have a leather bag that's quite sizable where I can put all my tech stuff, my passport holders, jewelry, and so forth. The bag I've been using in recent years is from Opperman. I think they're now called Carl Friedrich. It was designed to be a case for 25 hours. Now, I never traveled that way, but I used it for my 16-inch laptop, cameras, and so forth, because it fit all the stuff. Frankly, the interior was a bit big, so I used camera gear to kind of separate things and cushion things so they wouldn't just slide around, but be protected properly. Overall, I'd say, while the bag served me well, it has aged quite poorly. The leather didn't develop a nice patina, it just looks worn and old. The edge paint has come off and you see the orange lining poking through, which doesn't look very sophisticated. So I want to look out for a new bag that suits my needs. And maybe I have to design one myself, I don't know. Now once I pack this bag, it's quite heavy, and it would be quite tiring to carry it around through long travel journeys and airports. So I always bring a 4-wheeled carry-on so I can easily maneuver it wherever I go without too much effort. Yes, I always put the heavy bag on my carry-on and I flap the handles over the telescope mechanism to hold everything in place. When the bag originally came out, they didn't have these straps that go over the telescope mechanism. I think these days a lot more bags offer that, and it's definitely what I would want in a new bag. So why do I always go for 4 wheels? Well, in my experience, maneuvering something, getting through narrow lines, going left and right, is so much easier if you have 4 wheels compared to 2. Plus, when you have a heavier bag on top, a 2-wheeled one makes the whole thing still quite heavy, versus on a 4-wheel one, you don't carry that weight at all times. Now, there are a lot of people out there who travel exclusively with their carry-on, even without a bag. Now, I'm a clothes horse, and I typically bring a larger checked bag as well, sometimes even more, because I also like to buy things at the places I go to and bring souvenirs back home. I know. Shocking. A while back, Sterling Pacific approached us about the collab, and at that time they had a 2-wheeled suitcase. And because I don't like those, I said no. So now they came back and they said, hey, we're introducing this 4-wheeled suitcase. And I was like, awesome, your stuff looks great, let's do it. So who's Sterling Pacific? They're basically a younger, spec-driven brand that focuses entirely on high-end aluminum luggage. They designed their suitcase with pilots and frequent travelers in mind, which I think is wonderful because you really want something that stands the test of time and doesn't have a wheel that breaks off. Now, Sterling Pacific is most famous for their 2-wheel case, but I have a 6-year-old, and when you have lots of suitcases, it's really hard to push more than 2 suitcases by yourself if they just have 2 wheels. So when I unboxed the Sterling Pacific 40-liter 4-wheeled carry-on, I was quite impressed. First of all, the packaging was nice. It came with a scratch or dust cover, and it just felt solid right out of the box. The luggage has a full aluminum design, and you can tell the focus is aluminum and metal. Pretty much all the parts that are plastic on other aluminum suitcases are metal here. It comes with a 2-step extendable trolley style handle. As the name implies, it can hold about 40 liters of volume and it weighs in at 12 pounds or 5.5 kilograms. It's certainly not a small carry-on, but the dimensions are selected carefully so it fits in the overhead bin of airplanes. Now the first thing I test on any piece of luggage are the wheels, because wheels mean you have a higher resistance when walking and they will die prematurely in a situation when you least expect it. Really, there's nothing worse to push your luggage extra hard on a sidewalk when you're already jet-lagged and tired from carrying all the stuff. So you can see the wheel is mounted in a metal aluminum corner. Usually this piece is plastic. Every element, including the fender in the middle, the metal hubcap, and even the treads on the wheel were all designed so they're super smooth. I mean, I even pushed it at the airport, showing you how easily and smoothly it rolls. In my experiences, other suitcases often become harder to maneuver when they get heavier, but the Sterling Pacific 40-liter case works just fine and remains very maneuverable even when it's heavy. The frame is solid and extruded from 6063 aluminum. The body is made from 5000 series aluminum, which is 0.9 millimeters thick, and that's a lot thicker than what you usually see. It's about 1/30th of an inch thick. It's all being held together by over 100 stainless steel rivets, which is good because I've definitely had other suitcases with rivets not made of stainless steel that came off before. The corners are really solid, and they're made of 5052 aluminum and a thickness of 1.5 millimeters. Really, this is much thicker than on other suitcases, and you know they're not going to break easily. This aluminum alloy features magnesium and chromium for greater durability, which is especially important because suitcases and stuff are more easily dropped. If I think back on all the carry-ons I've had, this one feels the most solid, almost like a little tank. Now, I've had other aluminum luggage before, and Southern Pacific showed me that they're not all the same. For example, on other trolleys, things like the trolley handle, the locks, the trolley housing, or the wheel housing are all made of plastic. Not so with Sterling Pacific. The trolley handle retracts into a die-cast aluminum housing. Now the locks are made of a material called Zamac, and I would have even liked it more if it was brass, but they also have to look at weight because it's luggage after all. And when you open the locks, you're greeted with a very satisfying, solid sound. There's no subtlety here. The same goes when you close the case. You know it's locked just by hearing it. Visually, the luggage has an old school appearance, and on the inside you have a nice Alcantara style lining. The lines are very classic, and with the Italian full grain leather handles, I definitely feel like Howard Hughes is gonna come pick me up any minute now. When I used the Sterling Pacific 40-liter carry-on for the first time, I definitely had old world, old money vibes. Now, if you travel a lot, you know eventually things break. And usually you just have to toss out your suitcase and buy a new one. Not so with Sterling Pacific. They have a lifetime warranty, and the case was designed and built in a modular way so parts can be easily replaced, which I think is really, really nice. So really, they thought about all the aspects, from the way it functions, the way it's made, and even what to do if things go wrong. So now that we covered the bag and the carry-on, what actually goes inside of it? As an entrepreneur, I always need to have my laptop with me. Right now, I'm using an Apple MacBook Pro, 16 inches. It works well, and I wanted the M chip for the great battery life. When I travel, I also always use a VPN, because it protects my connection, especially with open networks. I know of a lot of people who got hacked, and I don't want that to happen. So for our business, we use a Perimeter 81. I think they were recently bought. I also have VPNs on the private side. So there's tons of offerings out there. Just get one that works with your budget. Also take a look at functionality. For example, I use private internet access. They also have apps for my phone and my iPad, so I can make sure that all devices are actually covered. Now, when I go on business travel, I also bring an iPad Pro. Right now I have the new one with the M4 chip and their Apple Pencil Pro, which is really nice to do a drawing or show something that's harder to do on just a computer. My wife Teresa also prefers to bring a Kindle. I just use the iPad to read because I don't want to bring yet another device. I really like Apple's M products because the battery life is so much longer, and their newer screens are also brighter and better, so you don't have issues even when it's really sunny. Now, one thing I always bring with me when I travel are noise-canceling headphones. I think they're essential on long plane journeys so you can sleep better, you can enjoy your favorite media, but even during your trip, you may use them when things get loud, especially at night. Because I'm in the Apple ecosystem, I have an iPhone now, and so I bring the AirPods Pro because they're just very convenient to wear. So on a plane itself, I prefer more old school, larger style headphones, and right now I'm using a Montblanc MB01. Now, their noise cancelling capabilities are not as good as the ones from Bose or Sony or even of the Apple AirPods Max. But what I really like about them, the leather quality and the size of the ear cups. I have big ears, so I hate small ear cups because they make my ears hurt when I have them on for 10, 12 hours at a time. The Montblanc ones don't, and so I can take a slightly worse noise cancelling performance for an increase in overall comfort. I think no other brand uses this same soft lamb leather that Montblanc uses. Just call me Clark Gable if you want. Now, some newer planes allow you to connect via Bluetooth to your headphones. If that's not the case and you're annoyed by having extra cables, especially if you get in and out to the restroom and so forth, you can get these little adapters that plug in and create Bluetooth connections with your headphones, so you can even listen to the plane media wirelessly. We got some options for you in the description below, where we also put links to all the other things. I would consider myself as somewhat of an audiophile, so I also have a pair of the Etymotic EX4XR, which have a bass boost. Now, these are wired headphones, they're buds, but they're really nice. And if you enjoy listening to high quality music, maybe this is something you'd like to add to your collection. They cost around $250, and it's a great investment in my opinion. Bear in mind, they have the traditional 3.5mm headphone jack. Now, as if that wasn't enough, I also like to bring another set of noise-canceling headphones, specifically the Sleepbuds. Now, why would I do that? Unlike an earplug, they function like an earplug, but they also are a white noise machine and they cancel ambient noise. So I found them to be a lot more effective than earplugs, and you also don't hear that inner sound of your blood pumping. So in my opinion, it is a much better thing when you travel and you don't know what the noise levels are going to be at night. Also, they're super soft, so you can turn around and sleep on them, unlike with, let's say, AirPods. And again, they wouldn't only last for 4 hours, so they wouldn't be good enough. Also, when I travel for business, oftentimes I end up in small towns and you're right next to the main road. And I start driving with loud trucks at 4 a.m. at night. So it's essential for me to have a pair of Sleepbuds that enable me to have a good night of sleep. Originally, we had the Bose Sleepbuds 2, which were great, but they had some battery issues, so they were discontinued and they're no longer around. It seems like some former employees of the company started to make the Oslo Sleepbuds, which are now available. We bought into their Kickstarter, bought 2 of them, and so far so good. I mean, it comes as a big surprise that they look virtually identical. Now, when I travel for a personal pleasure and now I'm going to be on the beach, I like to bring a Bluetooth speaker just so I have some music, maybe some Brazilian bossa nova while I relax. It just really adds to the mood when I relax. Obviously, there are lots of options out there. I decided to support another YouTuber. His name is Olaf's Gadgets, and he helped develop the Earphone U-Boom L, which I think only costs $79. I think he has deals sometimes too. It's a nice clean sound. You can even get a second one for stereo sound. It pairs easily with Bluetooth on my phone, and I enjoy it. Of course, I always bring a toiletry kit, and because I've never been quite satisfied with the kit itself, I'm working on a design of a new dub kit. Obviously, some people like to bring a lot, others like to bring very little. I always like to bring things like an electric toothbrush, And the Philips Sonicare I have has a little case that plugs in via USB to charge, which is super helpful during longer trips. If you're curious about what you should have in your toiletry kit, check out this video here. I'll also probably film what I will pack for a very specific trip, so stay tuned for that. Now, no matter where I travel, I always put on a nice set of clothes. Because of that, I firmly believe that I've sometimes gotten an upgrade when I otherwise probably wouldn't have. I've enjoyed better service, and once I flew to the wedding of my best friend, where I was the best man, and of course the airline lost my luggage. I didn't get it back for 100 days. So what saved me then was that I had nice clothes that I wore on the way there, so I could wear them for the wedding. So what I'm wearing today is a typical travel outfit for me. I'm wearing a pair of seersuckers, which don't wrinkle and they're lightweight, and they're currently a prototype for Fort Belvedere. I'm pairing it with a linen shirt because it's very hard wearing and breathable. I have an interesting blazer. Sometimes it can be a navy blazer. Today I'm wearing a green cashmere cotton sport coat from Isaiah. I have a pocket square from Fort Belvedere in silk, which is brown, red, green, and blue, which picks up the color of the outfit. A little boutonniere, also from Fort Belvedere, in blue, which picks up the color of the shirt. My shoes are loafers, because you can always easily remove them, which is important when you go through security. These shoes are technically not loafers. They're called Lazyman loafers, and they're by Gaziano and Gurley. They're also predestined for travel because they look like a classic men's dress shoe, but they don't have leather soles, but the rubber sole throughout, which make them almost as comfortable as a sneaker. My socks are over-the-calf socks from Fort Belvedere in kind of a khaki and red, which tie together the pants and the shoes. I also have a little pinky ring, simply because I like them, and a vintage wristwatch. Of course, when I travel, you can always miss a flight. It can get really hot and sweaty, so I always make sure to wear some cologne. Today, I'm wearing the loafer fragrance from Roberto Ugolini. Now, it's also great to have certain things that you can bring in your carry-on, such as an electric shaver, for example, or cologne samples. Yes, I like to travel with small vaporizers or little samples like our Roberto Ugolini range. It's just 2 milliliters. You can bring the entire range. It doesn't really add much weight, and you'll have everything you'll need during the time of your trip. I also always bring a travel manicure set, so I have a little pair of tweezers. I can clip my nails. I can file them, because sometimes when you travel, you get a hangnail and it scratches on your clothes, and you want something that you can just file and cut everything off, so you stop that. When traveling internationally, I always bring a passport holder because you can put your boarding passes in it, you can put luggage, receipts, and stickers in it, you can put currency in it, cards, and of course, a bunch of different passports. So you have everything in one place, which is helpful when you have to get it in and out all the time. It really helps me to stay organized, and so I always wanted something that was of a really nice quality. And since most of them are edge painted, I wanted something with double fold edges that had the same quality as our wallets, and so I just made them. When I travel, I always like to bring a little cardholder wallet because it's slim, so it hides very easily. People can't see it a whole lot, and I keep base stuff in my passport holder, and then I take out the currency and the cards that I need that day, put it in my card holder, and go about my business. Typically, I always have some form of debit card or a card that allows me to draw cash from an ATM. Because in many countries, cash is still king. And while the pandemic has really helped to allow people to pay with cards more frequently, there's many countries in the world where you get a much better deal if you pay cash than if you pay with card. Now, over the years, I found there's lots of companies that advertise that they don't charge fees for paying with their cards internationally or withdrawing cash. What they don't tell you is that they mark up their exchange rate a lot. So sometimes the card that doesn't charge any fees actually costs you more than the card that has a small fee but gives you a more favorable exchange rate. Now, how do you find out which card is truly the least expensive for you. What I've done in the past is I took the different cards and I withdrew the same amount at the same ATM in a row. And then at home, I compared the statements to truly see which cards had the most favorable rates. The person I know who travels the most is my friend Jared from thriftytraveler.com, and he swears by the Charles Schwab debit card. It's a free account, it has no ATM fees worldwide, and he always uses it to withdraw cash as soon as he lands. In the past, I've used my regular US bank debit card, which has a fee, but the exchange rate was good. Now I know that Wise has better rates typically than US Bank, and they also have a debit card, but it's not available for business in the US, so I just haven't used it yet. They also have a personal card, I think, but I haven't compared their rates. Now, when I go on a business trip, I typically bring a business card case so I can store my own cards, but also accept other cards. It's always a nice gesture when someone gives you a card and you put it in a nice box and you treat it in a respectful way rather than just stuffing it into your pocket. I mean, frankly, in countries like Japan, it's essential that there's a whole ceremony of how you actually accept a business card. One old school thing I always bring on a trip is a pen. It's really handy to fill out customs forms, immigration forms, and all that stuff. And so I wasn't surprised that a company like Sterling Pacific would add an aluminum pen into their luggage. Quite thoughtful. Now, if you've been following us for a while, you know that my interest in classic men's clothing started with fountain pens, specifically Mont Blanc fountain pens. And to this day, I still have a Meisterstück 149, and if you want to know whether it's worth it or not, check out this video here. I typically carry that in a pen case, whether it's a single pen case or if I want more pens like a ballpoint pen or a rollerball, you can have a larger pen case. Again, I wanted something that was quality with folded edges in all leather, and so we designed that for Ford Belvedere. Again, you can find links to all the products we mentioned here in this video in the description below. Now, when you bring a fountain pen on a plane, keep in mind that it may leak. Because of the different atmospheric pressure, you can get ink on your pen. So when you open it for the first time, be careful and probably have a little tissue handy. To prevent any leakage on your fountain pen, I suggest you put it in your pen pouch and make sure that it stays in the overhead compartment facing with the nib up. Eb on our team likes to fill up the pen as much as he can because he says it's the air that expands that causes the leak. But I found that I'm never able to get all the air out of the inside of a fountain pen. And frankly, you need to have some air in order to get the ink flow going when you write anyways. So if you're not attached to fountain pens, I suggest you skip them and go with a rollerball or ballpoint pen. But if you like fountain pens like me, then of course, this is how you handle it. Apart from my pen, I also always bring my personalized wax seal with me so I can write letters. No, just kidding. What I really do bring with me is a travel shoehorn, a sleep mask, and a measuring tape, because as a clothes horse, you never know when you have to measure something. I've had experiences before where I stood in a runway for 4 hours and they weren't allowed to serve drinks for some weird regulation. So I always make it a point to bring a water bottle, a reusable, not a plastic one, something of quality like this clean canteen here, so you can always take a sip of water. If you're a regular here at GG, you also know that I'm a big fan of pinky rings, jewelry, tie bars, collar clips, and so I always bring a little jewelry case. Back in the day, we offered one even for sale, and the one I'm still using is a prototype from back in the day. We stopped making it because we wanted to make a better designed one. We just haven't gotten around it yet. So if you want us to start working on that again, let us know in the comments below. Typically, I have rings in there, cufflinks, whatever it is that is shiny and jewelry, and then it just goes into my bag. So I have it with me and I don't check it because I don't want it to get lost. The same is true for watches. If I bring a watch or more of them, I put it in a watch case. Now, there are a few options out there, but I wanted a really thoughtful one. So stay tuned for some cool watch cases. Now, as you've seen, I've brought along a lot of electronic devices, and so I have a tech pouch that is full of stuff I only use while I'm on trips, and I don't touch it when I'm at home, so I know it's always complete and ready to go. Frankly, it saves me a lot of time when I pack, and it also has this peace of mind factor. So what exactly is inside of my tech pouch? First of all, I have quality chargers. I've personally bought and used chargers from the Anker brand. They've always been very dependable, and they've never let me down. I prefer the higher wattage ones with the GAN modules, which allow me to have, 140 watts of power, so I can charge my laptop, my iPad, my phone, my watch, my toothbrush, and anything else that has electricity, including my camera. I found the more USB-C plugs it has, the better, because they also can charge faster. If I go on international trips, I found this adapter from Lensend really helpful. It still has 120 watts, 3 USB outputs, and you can just adjust it to the German Schuko outlet, the American, or the British one, which pretty much has you covered around the globe. That means you no longer have to carry all these individual adapters, which I still have, of course, but that means you have to think about it. And if you go to a certain country, maybe you bring some that you don't need, which adds more bulk. So having this one-stop shop solution that you don't have to think about is really valuable. It also has a plug input, so I bring my Anker and that one, so I have enough USB-C outputs. Another thing that I'm very particular about is the quality of my cables. Anker, for example, has these really nice silicone cables that stay straight and smooth and are long enough, so I definitely use those. They have USB-C cables, they have lightning cables, and they're very good quality. If I bring a camera, or if I know I have to move large amounts of data, I also bring a Thunderbolt 4 cable because they have a much faster transfer speed. I remember once I had the wrong cable and it took like 3 hours to transfer stuff from my camera. With the right cable, it would have taken less than 5 minutes. And no, Anker didn't pay me to say any of that. I just have liked their products. I definitely bring enough cables just in case something breaks. I hate not being able to charge stuff when I want to charge it, or having to charge just one thing at a time, which can be annoying and frustrating with whatever schedule you may have. I just want to be able to start my day ready to roll. Now, if I bring a camera, I like to bring my Sony A1 because it has a large 50 megapixel sensor for images, so you get a nice resolution, but you can also film 8K videos or 4K with 120 frames uncropped, which is really nice. If I know I'm going to be filming a lot, I'll also bring a gimbal, typically a DJI gimbal. They're very good, they're reliable, and when you use them, you actually work out your forearms a lot. Right now, I use the DJI RS3 Pro. It's a good gimbal. I think you can already get the DJI RS4 Pro, but I also pump out new gear all the time. They're still good, even if you get an older version. Also, I've used the gimbal before, like a tripod, to take a nice family photo. Keep in mind, though, carrying your camera on a gimbal is quite heavy, so you have to be really into it in order to want it to bring along on your trip. For mics, I currently use the DJI Mic 2, which have good quality and are easy to use. Typically, when I'm abroad, I also drive, but I found I've never really needed an international driver's license. If there is a country you go to where you need one, where I think like Japan, then you have to get that in your home country before you leave. Just keep that in mind. We got a link in the description down below of where you can do that, at least in the US. If I know that I'm going hiking and be outdoors, I may even bring a pocket knife, but of course not in my carry-on. That has to go into my checked luggage. Last time I was in Switzerland, I bought a Swiss Army knife, but I have ADHD and I can't find it right now. Last but not least, one thing I really enjoy when I travel is to use bikes. I find that I really explore a city in a very different way than if I use public transportation. I'm breathing in the air, I'm seeing things, I get a better sense of orientation, and even when I'm not in a city, it's nice to go out by bike. You see things very quickly, and it's healthy and it's fun. Obviously, I don't know my way around, so having my phone with offline maps from Google Maps is typically a lifesaver. I have found the phone cases and mount from Peak Design to be really, really good. I don't like the material of the phone case, which is why I don't use it in everyday life, but it's very easy to mount it to any bike or even a tripod. You can rotate it and keep it in different positions, and it has kind of a physical paired with a magnetic lock mechanism that is easy to undo. So if I know that I'll bike, and chances are I will always bike, I always bring the Peak Design universal bar mount paired with the phone case. Now, do I bring my bike with me? Absolutely not. You can either go rent a bike, and most cities have these bike services where you can just have a bike, use it for 20 minutes, drop it off. It's like a rideshare platform, and it's a lot of fun. Now, I'm curious, what does your travel kit look like? What do you bring on every trip? And what would you consider your premium items? Please share with us in the comments below.